Hello everyone, Storm 11 here. Today we'll be watching an Alberta Clipper system that'll be moving from parts of the northern plains, the upper Midwest. They'll be traveling south down into parts of the Ozarks, but then it's going to take a sharp southern or easterly turn and eventually turn to the northeast. This has the potential to become possibly a big winter storm for parts, really anywhere from parts of the Carolinas, Appalachian Mountains, all the way up into parts of the New England states as well. The same Alberta Clipper system could bring winter storm-like conditions across parts of Dakotas, Minnesota, down into Minnesota as well. Still a lot of uncertainty with the system, but it is very interesting. So we're going to be going into deep detail with it as well. Before we get started with this video, if you guys like weather-related content, you can always subscribe to my channel. We do this stuff here all the time on this YouTube channel as well. So we got that out of the way. Let's go and start off with the GFS model. And there has been a very interesting trend today, and it's actually a little bit different than what we were talking about yesterday. It's still the same up in the parts of the Dakotas and Minnesota, but when it gets down to parts of the southeast and generally the eastern U.S. in general, it's a little bit different. Instead of having a normal Alberta Clipper system like this, it has the potential to become a bigger system than that. So we're going to start off by checking out the GFS model. Here comes our system right here. And you can see here, it's got a pretty good swath of some moderate at times heavy snowfall across parts of the eastern Dakotas into southwestern Minnesota. It eventually gets down to Iowa Friday night. That could put down quite a bit of snow in those areas, and that could certainly move down into parts of Missouri. But look what happens here. It starts to slow down, but at the same time, your low starts to get stronger. It's got a band of some heavy snow along the Missouri and Arkansas border. And then it moves off to the east, and then it just becomes a big mess. And then again, it's certainly pretty different than what we were seeing yesterday. If this is correct, you could be talking about a big time winter storm here. Not only a winter storm, but could be some icing down across parts of South Carolina, North Carolina as well. That's what we call cold air damming, which I'm sure some of you guys probably heard a term there east of the Appalachian Mountains there, where you got some cold air coming down from the Appalachian Mountains. It could be cold enough for some heavy snow in those areas. Beyond just west of the Appalachian Mountains, yeah, it could be a similar way, but you still got a little bit of a warm nose getting into that moisture as well. It might just be warm enough, just be a little bit of rain, a miserable cold rain. And then you can see here the system here really starts to intensify as it moves up along the Interstate 95 corridor, and at the same time, it's got a big winter storm look to it, and widespread snow with it as well. Could be some severe weather off the coast as well. So this could be a big system. Now, this is just one model, one solution. Let's check out some of the other model guidance. Let's check out the Canadian model, and this is done the best on the last system, but it has also changed as well. So here comes that same system moving through parts of the northern plains in the upper Midwest. And you can see here, it kind of takes the precipitation shield a little bit further south than the GFS model. And there is another piece of energy further to the north here, which we'll talk about that later in the video. But either way, it still has that low going a little bit further south with it. Then you got that cold air damming taking into effect across parts of the Carolinas, and also for that potential ice storm in there as well. And it does have a similar solution to the GFS. Rapidly intensifying low, kind of going up along the Interstate 95 corridor, bringing in widespread, moderate to at times heavy snowfall, especially on the backside of that low as well. This could certainly be a lot of people's dreams here, especially in the Carolinas here, where they haven't seen a big snowfall event in years, especially in the parts of South Carolina and Georgia. I mean, those areas haven't seen a big snowfall event in a long time. And I know in Atlanta, Georgia, I think they said that the last time they had miserable snowfall, I believe it was 2018. So it's been a very long time since they've seen snowfall, and this could be where the streak will end. And I'm saying could be, because some changes will likely be coming in with this system here. But this is the current solution for right now, at least for the potential anyway. Let's check out the European model, and you'll probably find pretty much a very similar solution here, actually a little bit more similar to the Canadian model, keeping that low further to the south with it. And then you can see here as it really rapidly intensifies as it kind of goes up along the east coast as well. And it's also slightly further east with it as well at the same time. So then again, pretty interesting system with it as well. But it does seem like we at least have a really good agreement that there is going to be a winter storm rolling through parts of the northern plains in the upper Midwest at the same time as well, especially early on. We'll check out some snowfall maps in just a moment for at least for those areas. But here we go with some of the uncertainty here. This is the GFS of Sawmills here. This is the mean MSLP, and it has the main low actually off the east coast. So it's actually further east than the rest of the model guidance. So there is some uncertainty with this. But honestly, I have doubts. I think it's going to be a little further to the northwest, especially if you kind of take that northwest trend as a factor, especially when we get pretty close to the time frame. I think we can see the system here be a little bit more inland with it as well. This GFS is almost, I believe, on the last system had quite a bit of trouble. It's been sticking to the southeast for a good while, and it was actually too far to the southeast with the last winter storm. So in my opinion here, I think that GFS is almost maybe a little bit further to the southeast. But if you check out the ensemble snowfall accumulation maps, you notice here there are some models that do keep it a little further to the northwest. You got member 1, 11, 13, even possibly 16 and 9, 4 as well. So there's still some models out there that keep it a little further to the west as well. It's not many, but some of them do. So that potential's still there that may shift a little further to the northwest. But if you do check out the mean snowfall accumulation, this is using the 10-to-1 ratio. It's got a pretty strong mean, and this is pretty impressive for being this far out. Now, this is not a snowfall forecast, keep in mind that, but it does kind of give us an idea where most of your snow could fall, and it could be in the parts of North Carolina, Virginia, and to parts of West Virginia as well. It also shows where we may have the greatest potential for a winter storm as well. So that's kind of what it also indicates as well. And then uncertainty spreads when we get up into the northeast as well. So then again, still plenty of uncertainty with the system here, but we are getting a slightly better agreement. But that uncertainty could spread within the next ball runs. We'll have to see how things go. And this is still continuing the GFS ensembles here. This is looking to a different view. So this is the 500 millibar geopotential height anomalies. And you can see here, it does have that trough a little bit farther off to the east. But at the same time, there's another system a little further back to the northwest. That's something we also have to talk about as well. And this could be a factor with this system here. It's this other weak system. Even though it's a weaker system, it can still push this thing here further to the southeast with it as well. And that's why the GFS is almost maybe a little bit farther to the south here. But like I said on the last winter storm, it was a little too far to the southeast. So we'll have to see what happens here with the GFS ensembles. This is the European ensembles here. And if I'm correct here, it actually brings it a little bit further. Well, actually, it may not bring it a little bit further inland. I think it's a similar situation with the GFS ensembles, where it has that piece of energy coming in a little bit quicker with it as well. But you'll probably be able to tell it a little bit better just by looking to the vorticity maps here. Unfortunately, the European ensembles does not. However, the GFS ensembles does, and we're going to show you guys that. So here comes our Alberta Clipper system. It doesn't look very impressive, but then again, this is the mean of 21 members here. So, yeah, it's not going to look very impressive on it. But here comes our system right here. Starts to get a little bit more amplified, starts to get stronger. But you do notice here comes your piece of energy that we're going to be talking about here as well. There's also another system a little further to the northeast. That's a 50-50 low up there as well. I almost forgot to say this earlier, but At the same time as the system's going on, there's other things that are going on as well. Not only you got a 50-50 low here, another low here, but you also got a negative NAO. Now, it's not 100% blocking there over Greenland, it only blocks partially of Greenland. You also have ridging over the western U.S. as well, so that could also help kind of shift around with this system here as well. And this system, or not system, but this negative NAO, depending on where the ridge placement will be, can also affect the system here. But at the same time, if this ridge right here affects this system, it can also affect this system down here later down the road. So there's still a lot of factors into the setup here. So that's why there's high uncertainty with this. Despite it having a good agreement here, there's still quite a bit of uncertainty here from the ensemble guidance here. And this some of the stuff here could easily change here. We're still several days away, so there's still room for some changes out there as well. That's why we're not 100% in stone with this just yet. Going back to the vorticity here, you do see here how this piece of energy here really catches up with this system here. If it does trend faster with it, it could certainly push the system a little further to the southeast. But if it's slower, it could trend back to the northwest. If you check out the GFS here, which the GFS is typically the fastest system here out of the rest, this time it's actually not. That really tells you something. If the GFS is slower than the other systems, and the GFS continues with this trend here, imagine what the other models are going to look like. I mean, if a GFS has a progression bias and if it's slower than the other models, then again, that really tells you something there. That kind of tells me that maybe some of the other models may be a little bit too fast with this northern piece of energy. And if that's the case, the system could trend a little further to the northwest. And that's something I'm paying attention to, is that potential for that northwest trend, especially within 1 to 2 days of the event, or 1 to 2 days away from the event at that point when we get into the short range. So that is going to be very interesting as well. And then getting over to GFS, it's got that northern piece of energy slower, so that leads to this system here to go a little further north. What will also be interesting here is that if this system here trades a little bit faster here, could it combine forces with this system here a little bit earlier? That's also another question as well. If that's the case, you could see a potentially a big system with it as well. But I think the probability of that is pretty darn low for that as well. You do see they kind of get together here, but not quite in a fashion that you would probably want to see anyway. But it could have a potential for another big system behind it as well. We also may have to pay attention to that as well. So here's a look at the Canadian model. This one here, it's a little bit further south of it. And like I said here, it is a little bit faster with it. You can see here, if we do compare both of the models here at around the same time frame, so 18Z on Sunday, you can see here it's got the piece of energy entering into North Dakota and northwestern Minnesota. If you go back here to the Canadian model, it's got down into parts of the Nebraska and South Dakota border. So that's another signal as well. And that could really determine if how far south the system could go. So there's actually two different tracks if the system here could go. And this could really determine the snow threat for anybody that lives up to parts of Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, and Ohio. This could really determine your snowfall potential as well. And since the Canadian ball is a little further south, it's actually a little bit faster with the northern piece of energy as well. And it does combine forces there at a pretty decent time as well, especially when it gets up to the New England states as well. That's when the system really gets act together as well. Here's the European model, which is also another model that's a little further south with it as well. So here's your system right here. And here's 18Z on Sunday. And you can see here, this is actually much faster as well than the other model solutions. So it's going to push this system here much further to the south. And if you compare it to the other models, the Canadian model had it a little bit further north. GFS was about right here. And you got the European model that's a little further south. So that means it's a little bit faster with the northern piece of energy. And then what also means is that our storm system will be not only further south, but could also be a little bit faster as well. And then you can see how they kind of join forces as it moves into the New England states as well. So it is going to be very interesting. So then again, for snow lovers that live up into Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, and probably into parts of West Virginia and Tennessee as well, you better hope this here slows down, because if it does so, it can move the system here, have a little bit more of a northern track. It may do something like this there. If it goes a little faster, it could go something like this, so that it makes a big difference there as well, where the track of the low is going to be. I don't think there's going to be any shortage of moisture or dry air, especially when the Gulf of Mexico is well above normal with sea surface temperatures. That's a pretty good moisture supply. Plus, we got pretty good amount of cold air on the backside of the system as well, so I don't think we'll have a shortage of both of those as well. So it's certainly going to be very interesting to watch and see how this kind of evolves here. We'll definitely have to watch the trends very closely, and that's the key thing for being this far out, is what the trends are going to be. Honestly, I got a feeling so far the GFS, it's been kind of leaning the models. If you haven't noticed already, the GFS has been kind of leaning the models here. So there's a possibility these other models may try to jump on board with the GFS as well. Just the way how things been so far. Like I said yesterday, I know I said this GFS was an outlier. Well, I was wrong on that. The other models got on board with it, but the GFS is still continuously looks to be going slower than the other models. So if that trend does continue, we could be talking about a slower system and maybe a little further of a northern track as well. So it'll certainly be very interesting to watch as well. And the last thing we're going to check out is the winter storm potential for areas up into Northern Plains, the Upper Midwest, if we do have any viewers from there. If we check out the NAML first, now this is quite unusual to see this from an Alberta Clipper. Typically with Alberta Clipper systems, you may get at max maybe at least a couple inches of snow typically. This system here is a little bit of a different story. We actually got a lot more snow with it, potentially as well. Some of these amounts might be a little bit overdone here, but then again, that's a lot of snow, especially from an Alberta Clipper system here. I mean, it's got some places got a little over a foot of snow in some places, which is very interesting. Here's to check out the highest Canadian. It's also pretty similar with it as well. A little bit more widespread of that snowfall potential as well. Here's the Canadian model. It's actually very similar with it as well. And checking out the GFS model, it's also pretty similar as well, but a little bit higher with the snowfall totals as well. So it is going to be very interesting to watch into the Northern Plains in the upper Midwest as well. Some of you guys could see a pretty good snow out of this as well. And I think the probabilities are really increasing for the winter storm probability for us a little further up north as well, especially in the parts of the eastern Dakota, southwest of Minnesota, into Iowa. Could really see that potential for a winter storm as well. And something I almost forgot to check out is the weather prediction or thoughts here. And it's not going to look very impressive here, but this is their latest outlook here for probabilities. Now this is your probabilities for at least a quarter of an inch of snow and sleet. And you can see here, this is on day 4. That got some pretty good probabilities in central Iowa to northeastern Missouri. But even areas in Dark got some pretty decent probabilities as well. It was a 30 to 50% chance. As we move to day 5, this is where uncertainty really grows here. You got a pretty large area of a 10 to 30%, but they do have some of the highest probabilities in the higher elevations in western North Carolina with a 30 to 50% chance. And then on day 6, which is Monday, they got elevated probabilities from South Carolina all the way up into Massachusetts, a 10 to 30% chance. So there are some probabilities out there. It'll be interesting to see what the next update will show here for the storm system as well. And I guess we could check out day 3, I think. Yeah, day 3. Now this is a little bit early on. This is for Friday. Yeah, 0C Friday to 0C Saturday. I believe that's what that is. Anyway, so this is for the beginning of the system here, and you can see it. They got pretty good probabilities for at least 4 inches of snow. That's a 40 to 70% chance of seeing at least 4 inches of snow. That goes from parts of central and eastern North Dakota, northeastern South Dakota, into southwestern Minnesota to far northwestern Iowa with it. And they do not have any elevated probabilities yet for 8+ inches of snow. So then again, for areas so far up north, you could certainly see a pretty good winter storm out of this as well. But anyways, guys, that's all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Guys, like this video, hit the like button. If you like my channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notifications so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, put the comment section down below. I answer you guys questions. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.